What I'm about to share with you today may completely shift the way you look at rising blood pressure, especially if you're over 50. And when we reach the very first nutrient on this list, the one that older adults most often run low on without even realizing it, you'll understand why so many people walk around with readings that sit 20, 30, sometimes even 40 points higher than they expect. And the surprising part is that many of them never hear the simple explanation behind it. I'm someone who has spent years studying how the body changes with age, and I've seen countless people feel frustrated, discouraged, and unsure of what else they can do. They follow instructions, take their medications, attend appointments, and still wonder why the numbers refuse to settle. And almost every time, there's one overlooked piece of the puzzle hiding in plain sight: basic nutrients the body quietly depends on. Before we go any further, if you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. Every week, I share thoughtful information designed specifically for older adults who want to better understand what their bodies are telling them. It's simple guidance, grounded in biology, shared in a way that makes sense. Now, here's something most people never get a chance to talk through during a short appointment. Elevated blood pressure isn't always an unpredictable condition that arrives without warning. Very often, it's a signal, a message that certain key nutrients may be running low. And when that happens, the arteries, the heart, and the blood vessels themselves may struggle to work the way nature intended. Right now, more than 70% of adults over the age of 65 have elevated blood pressure. That's not just a statistic. Those are neighbors, friends, family members, people who start their morning with a pill they hope will help, without ever hearing about the nutritional factors that may also play a role. And here's what concerns me most. A significant number of these older adults are low in at least one of the nutrients I'm about to talk about. And research continues to show that each of these nutrients has a measurable influence on how relaxed or constricted the blood vessels feel. I'm not telling you to change your medication. I'm not telling you to ignore your doctor. What I am saying is this: when you understand what your body may be asking for, you can support it in a way that often leads to real improvements. And the body has an incredible ability to respond when it finally receives what it has quietly been missing. By the end of this video, you'll know the 7 nutrients most consistently connected to healthier blood pressure ranges in older adults. You'll understand why the body needs them and how they interact with the systems that keep the cardiovascular system steady. And I'll share real stories from people who saw meaningful changes once these nutritional gaps were finally addressed. Let's begin with number 7, a group of nutrients most people rarely think about in connection with blood pressure at all. Vitamin 7, the B vitamins, folate, B6, and B12. These three work together, and I want to start by telling you about someone I once met named Dorothy. She was 68, thoughtful, disciplined, and committed to doing things the right way. She watched her sodium intake, prepared her meals carefully, stayed active, and followed her plan exactly as instructed. On paper, everything looked perfect. Yet her numbers refused to cooperate. Even with 2 medications, her readings hovered around a stubborn 158 over 94. So we looked deeper, not at her habits, but at the nutritional signals inside her body. And what we found was something many older adults never get checked: her homocysteine levels. Homocysteine is a natural amino acid, harmless in healthy amounts, but strongly influenced by folate, B6, and B12. When these vitamins run low, which is very common after the age of 60, homocysteine begins to build up. And this buildup affects the inner lining of the blood vessels, the thin protective layer that keeps the arteries flexible and calm. When that layer becomes irritated or stressed, the blood vessels can tighten. And when they tighten, blood pressure rises. Dorothy's levels of these B vitamins were low, We introduced a balanced B complex and supported her diet with foods rich in folate, like leafy greens and fortified grains, and foods rich in B12, such as lean meats and eggs. Over the next several weeks, something began to shift. Her homocysteine levels dropped, and her blood pressure finally moved downward into a safer and more stable range, all without adjusting her medication. One thing older adults should keep in mind is that vitamin B12 becomes harder to absorb with age because the stomach naturally produces less acid. That means even if you eat the right foods, your body may not absorb enough. That's why a well chosen supplement can make a meaningful difference. Now let's move to vitamin number 6, vitamin C. Most people know vitamin C for immune support, but far fewer understand the role it plays in supporting relaxed, flexible blood vessels. And to explain it, I want to share the story of Robert, a 72-year-old retired firefighter from Houston. Robert was strong, active, and disciplined, yet his numbers had slowly crept up from the mid 140s to the 160s over the years. What he didn't realize was that his arteries were dealing with something called oxidative stress, an imbalance that becomes more common with age. Oxidative stress occurs when the natural byproducts of metabolism, free radicals, begin to overwhelm the body's ability to neutralize them. When this happens, the inner lining of the arteries can feel the strain, and when that lining is under strain, it produces less nitric oxide, a compound the body relies on to help the arteries stay open and relaxed. Vitamin C is one of the strongest antioxidants available. It supports the stability of the blood vessel lining, helps maintain nitric oxide activity, and contributes to more flexible arteries. When Robert increased his vitamin C intake through both food and supplements, his numbers gradually shifted in the right direction over the course of a few months. This wasn't a miracle cure. It was a reminder that sometimes the body simply needs consistent nutritional support. Vitamin 5, omega 3 fatty acids. Now we move into a group of nutrients that many older adults have heard of, but few truly understand in terms of how directly they influence blood vessel behavior. Omega 3s are not vitamins in the traditional sense, but their effect on the cardiovascular system is so significant that they belong on any list discussing nutritional support for healthy blood pressure. To help explain this, let me introduce you to Barbara, a 70-year-old retired librarian from Cleveland. She had always been careful with her health, maintained a steady routine, and did everything she believed she was supposed to do. Still, her readings hovered around 148 over 90, and her family history made her especially uneasy. When we reviewed her habits, one thing stood out. She almost never included fish in her diet. And for many people, that's where the challenge begins. Omega 3s, specifically EPA and DHA, help support relaxed blood vessels by influencing the smooth muscle surrounding them. They help reduce inflammatory compounds in the bloodstream, support elasticity in the artery walls, and help maintain balanced triglyceride levels, which also affect vascular flexibility. After Barbara added a steady source of omega 3s, both through food and a reliable supplement, her numbers began to settle downward. Not instantly, not dramatically in a single week, but gradually and consistently. And consistency is what truly matters for long-term cardiovascular support. Vitamin 4, CoQ10. The next nutrient is one that many people have heard of but may not fully appreciate. CoQ10 is a natural compound found in every cell of the body, and its primary role is energy production. But its effect on the cardiovascular system, especially in older adults, can be profound. To explain this, let me share the experience of James, a 74-year-old retired postal carrier. James had been taking a cholesterol-lowering medication for several years. His cholesterol levels were where his doctor wanted them, but something else had been quietly changing in the background: his energy, his stamina, and eventually his blood pressure. Here's what many people don't realize. As the body ages, its natural levels of CoQ10 gradually decrease, and certain common medications can lower them even further. When CoQ10 runs low, the heart, which relies heavily on steady energy, may begin to work harder to accomplish the same tasks. When the heart has to push harder, numbers may rise. After James introduced a well absorbed CoQ10 supplement into his routine, his energy returned in a noticeable way. And over the next several weeks, his readings began to move downward. Again, nothing else in his routine changed, just the steady reintroduction of a nutrient his body had been using faster than it could replace: vitamin 3, vitamin D. Now we reach one of the nutrients that often surprises people the most. Vitamin D is commonly discussed in relation to bone strength, but its role in cardiovascular function is deeper than most realize. I want to tell you about Helen, a 67-year-old from Denver. She had been managing borderline readings for several years, not extremely high, but never fully steady either. She walked daily, ate well, and followed her plan closely, yet something still didn't add up. When her vitamin D levels were checked, the results showed a significant deficiency. Vitamin D behaves much like a hormone in the body. It influences hundreds of internal processes, including a system that helps regulate how tightly or loosely the blood vessels behave. When vitamin D is too low, the body may release more of the compounds that encourage the vessels to tighten. When levels are restored, the system may calm and operate more normally. As Helen gradually increased her vitamin D to a healthy range through supplementation and morning sunlight, her readings became more consistent for the first time in years. She didn't change her medication. She didn't overhaul her lifestyle. She simply corrected a deficiency she didn't know she had. Before we move into the final two nutrients, the ones that tend to create the most surprising changes, I want to pause here briefly. If the information so far has helped you understand your body more clearly, consider subscribing for future videos. My purpose is to give older adults guidance that feels practical, empowering, and grounded in how the body truly works. It helps the channel grow, and it makes sure you don't miss anything that could support your health journey. Now let's continue with nutrient number 2, one that is essential, often overlooked, and deeply connected to the balance of fluids and relaxation of blood vessels: vitamin 2, potassium. Potassium is not a vitamin, but its influence on blood pressure is immediate and powerful. To illustrate this, I want to tell you about Frank, a 76-year-old retired police officer from Phoenix. Frank had spent his life helping others, but his own numbers had been rising to a level that concerned even him. Despite taking multiple medications, his readings remained uncomfortably high. When we examined his habits more closely, it became clear that his diet wasn't supporting his potassium needs. Potassium helps the body balance sodium, supports fluid regulation, and encourages the smooth muscles around the blood vessels to stay relaxed. Many older adults unknowingly fall short in this mineral, especially if they rely heavily on low produce or processed foods. Once Frank began adding more potassium-rich foods into his diet, things like leafy greens, potatoes, beans, and bananas, his numbers began to move downward. It wasn't the only thing he was doing, but it was the missing link that allowed his body to function the way it had been trying to all along. Now we've reached the final nutrient on this list, the one that tends to surprise people the most because its absence can influence the body through not one, but several biological pathways. Vitamin 1, magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral that plays a surprisingly large role in supporting balanced blood pressure, yet most older adults never have their levels evaluated. And I want to introduce you to someone whose story perfectly illustrates why this mineral is so important. Caroline was 71, a retired hospital administrator from Atlanta. She was organized, diligent, and committed to taking good care of herself. She kept track of her daily numbers, took her medications consistently, stayed active, and followed every instruction she was given. Still, her reading stayed around 155 over 92, higher than she wanted and resistant to improvement. When she finally had her mineral levels checked, something interesting came back. Her magnesium level was on the lower side. And what many people don't realize is that the test most commonly used to measure magnesium only reflects a tiny portion of the magnesium actually stored in the body. The rest, the overwhelming majority, sits inside the cells and bones. Here's why this matters. Magnesium supports relaxation of the smooth muscle inside the vessel walls. When magnesium is low, calcium may enter these muscle cells more readily, causing the blood vessels to tighten. And when the vessels tighten, the numbers rise. Magnesium also plays a role in balancing sodium and potassium inside the cells, which is another way the body helps regulate fluid stability. Without enough magnesium, that balance may become harder to maintain. And there's more. Magnesium supports the release of a natural compound inside the blood vessels, one that helps them widen when needed. If magnesium levels are too low, the vessels may not widen as easily, creating additional stress on the cardiovascular system. Once Caroline began introducing magnesium-rich foods and a well-absorbed magnesium supplement into her routine, her numbers began to shift in a steady, meaningful way. Over several weeks, her readings moved into a more comfortable range, something she hadn't seen for years, all without altering her medication or lifestyle. For many older adults, magnesium becomes harder to absorb with age. Certain medications, including some used for digestion, blood sugar, and fluid control, may also affect magnesium levels. And because modern diets often include fewer magnesium-rich foods than the body needs, many people gradually fall short without realizing it. Now, I want to take everything we've discussed so far and bring it together into a clear, practical summary, something you can refer back to whenever you need it. These are the steps many older adults find helpful when supporting healthier blood pressure ranges. Step 1. Consider having key nutrient levels checked, including vitamin D, B12, magnesium, and potassium. Understanding your starting point can make everything else more effective. Step 2. Add potassium-rich foods into your meals: vegetables, beans, leafy greens, and certain fruits. Potassium works closely with sodium balance and has a direct effect on vessel relaxation. Step 3. Support healthy magnesium intake. Foods like almonds, spinach, pumpkin seeds, and whole grains can help, along with a well-absorbed magnesium supplement if recommended. Step 4. Ensure your vitamin D level is in a healthy range. Many older adults benefit from moderate sunlight and a daily vitamin D3 supplement, taken consistently over time. Step 5. Discuss CoQ10 with your healthcare provider, especially if you've been taking medications that may lower your natural levels. CoQ10 supports the heart's energy needs and overall cardiovascular function. Step 6. Include omega-3 fatty acids. Eating fish like salmon, sardines, or trout a few times a week can help, along with a concentrated omega-3 supplement if needed. Step 7. Add foods rich in B vitamins: leafy greens, legumes, eggs, and fortified grains. These vitamins support processes inside the body that influence vessel stability. Step 8. Include vitamin C through colorful fruits and vegetables. Its antioxidant support contributes to healthier blood vessel function. Step 9. Be patient. The changes these nutrients support inside the body often take time. Weeks or even months may pass before the full benefits become noticeable. Consistency matters more than anything. Step 10. Track your readings. Write down your numbers, note changes in your routine, and bring the information to your healthcare provider. Patterns often reveal the clearest picture. Now, I want to close with a story that ties everything together. George was 73, a retired engineer from Columbus, someone who had spent most of his life solving problems through logic and careful analysis. But when it came to his blood pressure, he felt stuck. Even with several medications, his numbers remained in the 160s, and he felt tired, discouraged, and unsure of what else to try. When he finally reviewed his nutrient levels, something unexpected appeared. He wasn't low in just one area, he was low in several at once. Vitamin D, magnesium, potassium, omega 3s, and CoQ10 all running below where his body needed them to be. Over several months of steady, thoughtful nutritional support, guided closely with his provider, his numbers shifted from the upper 160s into the low 130s, not overnight, not dramatically, but consistently. And as his numbers settled, his energy returned, his comfort improved, and he found himself able to enjoy activities he had avoided for years. Your numbers are more than just numbers. They're your body's way of communicating. They reflect how relaxed or tense your vessels feel, how balanced your internal systems are, and whether your cells are receiving what they need to function smoothly. You now have 7 areas to explore, 7 possible signals your body may be giving you. These nutrients are not quick fixes. They're foundational supports that help the body function the way it was designed to function. Share this information with someone who checks their numbers every day and wonders why they never seem to improve. It might be the insight they've been waiting for. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe for more guidance made specifically for older adults who want clarity, confidence, and practical steps they can use. Take care of yourself. Pay attention to what your body is telling you. And I'll see you in the next video.